Hi there, and happy St. Patrick's Day, whatever that means to you. I hope that you have a good one, and we are just 10 days away from PODJAM 2 in Las Vegas. I hope you're coming, and if you want to join us virtually, there's ticket availability for that. More information in the show notes. Very excited to see you out there, and this week I'll have all of our favorite guests who are going to be joining us at PODJAM joining us. Hopefully I can get everyone here. I've got Eric Segall and Aaron Carroll booked, and today it's JL Cauvin for a great conversation with JL. As always, I think you're really going to like it. That starts at 24 minutes today. But of course, I've got your headlines and clips from the weekend. Lots to discuss. So let's get to that now. And also, thanks to everybody who joined me at the Thursday night hangout that I held on Friday night. It was great. We did 2.5 hours, and I've got some highlights from that coming up as well. Headlines and clips coming your way right now, and I can't do any of it without your paid subscription. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. Go to patreon.com/Pete Dominic right now if you aren't, and sign up. You can always upgrade your subscription to pay more if you're getting more out of it. Now, let's see. Well, it's Monday, and I've got all kinds of stories that occurred over the weekend for you, starting with a story about weather. I mean, it was a crazy storm system moved across the whole country basically at the end of last week. Rain, snow, hail, dust, fire, tornadoes. A giant cross-country storm system last week led to one hazard after another, lashing California with an atmospheric river, fueling wildfires in Oklahoma, and spawning tornadoes from Missouri to Alabama. Part of Texas felt like Mars. Huge stretches of communities across the Midwest and South were reduced to rubble. A governor lost a farmhouse to fire, and an area near a tiny town in Mississippi was struck by a tornado twice. It all added up to a devastating mix. Since Friday, at least 40 deaths across 7 states have been attributed to the storm. Missouri has the highest death toll on record with 12 fatalities, followed by Kansas with 8. Most of Alabama was severely impacted, and at least 3 died in the state. And now many are fearing that shakeups at the federal agency that covers all of this, NOAA, could have an impact on the department's ability to respond to tornadoes after twisters ravaged the Midwest Friday night, leaving 37 there dead. Wow. So that's the big story over the weekend. Hopefully you and yours weren't affected. We'll see how the federal government is able to respond, much less predict these kinds of things in the future, because that is a real travesty. And I don't do too much weather here in the headlines, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. On Friday, Senate Republicans teamed up with a small band of Democrats to advance a stopgap funding bill, clearing the path for a final vote to avert a government shutdown. The bill cleared a key procedural hurdle, 62-38 vote, with 10 Democrats joining, all but one Republican voting to favor. 60 votes were needed to overcome the filibuster, and Democrats are none too happy. As a matter of fact, here in my state of New York, as of Sunday night, 71 indivisible chapters in New York, activists, indivisible chapters, which I'm a part of, including our indivisible Rockland, have signed a letter demanding that Senator Schumer step aside as minority leader. So we'll see what happens there, but this is a big story that is not going away. I look forward to talking with you about it at tonight's Hangout. That's right. There is a Hangout tonight, 8 p.m. I hope to see you there. Moving on, 2 judges ordered federal agencies on Thursday to reinstate tens of thousands of workers with probationary status who had been fired across 19 agencies as part of President Trump's government gutting initiative. And a big story over the weekend was that hundreds of mostly Venezuelan alleged gang members were deported from the U.S. to a prison in El Salvador on Sunday, but the Trump administration invoked wartime powers to speed up removals despite a court ruling halting the move. A lot of confusion about this story, where the plane was when the judge's ruling came down, but it's a latest dramatic showdown between the White House and the judiciary. A federal judge temporarily blocked the administration's ability to use the centuries-old Alien Enemies Act Saturday evening, verbally ordered any planes in the air carrying some of the migrants to turn back to the U.S. The U.S. District Judge named James Boasberg said the temporary ruling restraining order will remain in effect for 14 days or until further order from the court. One person familiar with the matter said the planes were already in the air at the time of the judge's ruling, but they did land, and they're now in El Salvador. And that was a huge and a very upsetting story over the weekend, because what does that mean? That's next. The National Security Advisor for Trump, Mike Waltz, confirmed Sunday U.S. airstrikes took out multiple Houthi leaders in attacks over the weekend. And Trump said that he plans to speak Tuesday, tomorrow, with Russian President Vladimir Putin amid the U.S. president's effort to end Russia's war in Ukraine. How's that going for you? Moving on, 4-person crew entered the International Space Station early on Sunday morning, part of a mission to relieve 2 astronauts who will now return to Earth after a protracted stay on the orbital base. The arrival of the replacement crew means that NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, which Trump insinuated should have sex on the space station, can now go home after more than 9 months in space. Their trip to ISS in June was supposed to last just over a week, but it morphed into a much longer expedition when their Boeing Starliner spacecraft ran into technical problems and was sent back to Earth without a crew. Imagine that, saying to your family, we'll be back in a week, and then, sorry, we're in space for almost a year. Damn. Good for them. I hope they get back safely. Trump signed an order yesterday to strip back federally funded news organization Voice of America. This is a huge story. He accused it of being anti-Trump and radical. A White House statement said the order would ensure taxpayers are no longer on the hook for radical propaganda, including quotes from politicians and right-wing media criticizing the broadcaster. Voice of America, still primarily a radio service, was set up during World War II to counter Nazi propaganda. It says it currently reaches hundreds of millions of people globally each week. Their director now, Mike Abramowitz, said he and virtually his entire staff of 1,300 people had been put on leave. So that is a huge story as well. And a big story out of Serbia, where tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 protesters filled the streets in Serbia's capital over the weekend, culmination of more than 4 months of demonstrations against the president and the government there, what they see as a slow response to a deadly train station collapse in November. The protest movement is a major challenge to Serbia's president, who has dominated the political sphere for about a dozen years. His name is Aleksandar Vučić. Vučić? I think I've got that right, but that's an interesting and important movement to be watching. And now here at the end of the news, I just want to read a bit of commentary from one of the most important people, writers, historians of our time. It's Timothy Snyder of Yale, the historian and expert on authoritarianism. He wrote a piece at his Substack over the weekend, which is worth reading in full. It's called Blame Canada, Our Warmongering Drugged Out Conspiracy Theory. In it, Snyder writes, when Trump announces an aggressive policy, he attaches to it a grotesque justification. The nonsensical fiction is supposed to remain in our minds as a button to be pushed so that we accept violence. We will have trouble questioning lies later if we accept them when offered, because that would challenge our own sense of ourselves as not being idiots. This is the magic of the big lie, as Hitler explained in Mein Kampf. Tell a lie so big, advised Hitler, that people will not believe that you would deceive them on such a scale. His biggest lie was that an international Jewish conspiracy, something that could always be blamed, something that would always relieve you of responsibility. In 1939, he and his propagandists piled up the fictions about Poland. They pretended that Poland did not really exist as a state, but also that Poland was the aggressor and had started the war. Big lies today? That Canada attacked the United States first by sending masses of fentanyl across the border, and also that Canada does not really exist. So that is what Snyder writes about, the big lie being applied to Canada. And I thought it was really, really important. In the end, he writes, Canadians tended to be patient with us. Canadians know Americans well and tend or have tended to see us as our best selves. All of this is to their credit. None of this means that they want to become the 51st state. A phrase so dumb it hurts my fingertips to type it. Canada is a very interesting and very different country with a very different history. Canadians have quite different institutions and live quite different and longer lives. Canadians have a profound sense of who they are. Anyone who suggests the contrary simply has not taken the time to come to the country or to listen with any attention. The notion that Canada is not real is an example of the complacent lies that imperialists tell themselves before beginning doomed wars of aggression. The specific association of Canada with fentanyl is a big lie that allows Americans to shift responsibility away to a chosen enemy and enter a world of geopolitical fantasy. Anyone who plays with the idea that Canada is not a real place or repeats the fentanyl slander is a warmongering and preparing the way for North American catastrophe. Big lies are powerful, but they are also vulnerable, at least before war begins. Wars begin with words, and we have to take words seriously at the time when they matter most, which is right now. When we see the truth of where this is all meant to go, we can prevent it by calling out the big liars and telling the small truths. So let's do it, stand-up listeners. Let's call it the big lie. Let's connect with and support our friends in Canada and line up alongside them. There you go, and read the rest of that whole piece by Tim Snyder at his Substack, which is called Thinking About. Over 319,000 subscribers. I highly recommend you sign up for that one. And now it's time to get to the clips I've gathered for you from the weekend. It's time for the clip show. Here we go. And coming up at the end of the clips, I've got Gareth Sever's performance from our Hangout on Friday night, which is real special. You're not going to want to miss that. But first, let's open with comedian Bill Burr, who continues to bash billionaires, including Elon Musk. He was on, I think, Good Morning America on ABC, and I thought this was great, and so did a lot of other people because it definitely went viral. Take it away, Bill Burr on Broadway.
Glenn Ross, great movie. What makes it a relevant story today for Broadway?
Because all of these greedy billionaires, I would say that. I mean, like their new word for monopoly is consolidation. You know, this is being consolidated. It's like, no, you're kind of keeping all the money. And then you're blaming people with no money. It's kind of a weird time, but I also think it's an opportunity just because, if it's an intolerant time, doesn't mean you can't be like a nice person and try to help out other people. So, but I feel like when Glengarry came out, I remember my brother was in sales and I saw it and I loved it. Mm-hmm. And my brother, I go, did you like it? He said, no. He goes, it was depressing because that's exactly how it was. But I was not in sales, so I could just sort of, watch it and enjoy it. But now I feel like they're doing that a lot now, like pitting people against each other seems to be this big thing. Like, I don't know. I can't understand having $1 billion and then just being mean to people or being upset with the country. It's like, I kind of think it's working for you. You got $1 billion. Like, what is the problem? Like, how much better does it have to get for you?
All right. Well, speaking of super wealthy people, that was hilarious. But the Treasury Secretary, Trump's Treasury Secretary, was on Meet the Press with Kirsten Welker, and he got into some controversy or hot water, I suppose, because he basically said the American dream isn't about cheap goods. I'm paraphrasing. But this guy is worth $500 million apparently himself. So I think this fits perfectly. Here we go.
Ask you about something that you actually said last week, and we'll discuss it on the other side. Take a look.
Access to cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. The American dream is rooted in the concept that any citizen can achieve prosperity, upward mobility, and economic security.
Mr. Secretary, are you there essentially saying that the Trump administration is comfortable to have consumers pay more for goods in America?
Not at all, Kristen. What I was saying is the American dream is not let them eat flat screens. That if American families aren't able to afford a home, don't believe that their children will do better than they are. The American dream is not contingent on cheap baubles from China, that it is more than that, and we are focused on affordability, but it's mortgages, it's cars, it's real wage gains.
All right, well, that guy's a complete idiot who's totally out of touch, and I hope that he keeps talking and making an ass of himself. But you know who's not doing that? This congressman from Massachusetts named Jake Auchincloss. You've heard me play him before. He represents Massachusetts' 4th District, and he's real good. He's real smart. He's handsome. He's a veteran, and we're going to see probably a lot more from him. I'd like to see him in the U.S. Senate eventually myself, but he is great at messaging, and so here he is on Fox News Sunday, nailing it. This is the exact message that folks that aren't paying that close attention to politics and folks that watch Fox News need to be hearing, and that's why I want to share it with everybody, because everybody needs to copy this messaging.
Right now. This economy is inflationary right now. We are seeing spikes in home insurance, in car insurance, in utility bills, in food bills, in the cost to buy a new automobile. And you know what the Republicans' response to this is? Their response to this is, well, get ready for a rocky ride. And by the way, we're going to give tax cuts to the top 20% of earners in this country and pay for it by taking away health care from people who need health care. By taking away health care from kids who need it for primary care, from seniors who need it from at-home care, from people struggling with opioid use disorder. This is not going to scrub with the American people, and Republicans are responding by avoiding town halls so they don't have to take the tough questions.
Absolutely nails it. Perfect. Just perfect, in my opinion, the way that Congressman Auchincloss talks right there on Fox News Sunday. Really well done. You know who's not doing well? It's Senator Marco Rubio. Yeah, this guy is just continue to prostrate himself and lick the boots of Trump and Elon Musk, who he clearly hates. Here he is on Face the Nation trying to act like everything's totally normal and fine with Canada. There's no trade war.
These policy announcements and pullbacks are causing concern in the marketplace, as we saw this past week. So I heard you describe what seemed like a strategy to get to negotiations on a bilateral front. You also seem to negotiate, you say this was national security minded, but then we also see comments by the president of like 200% tariffs on champagne. That's not a critical industry for the United States. That seems more emotional.
No, that's called retaliation. That's what happens in these trade exchanges. They're going to increase tariffs on. They already have high tariffs. They're going to add more to their tariffs. Fine. Then we'll have to find something to. I mean, you tell me. I mean, Canada's going after whiskey and orange juice and
retaliation.
Yeah, exactly. So that sounds pretty petty to me as well. So what's the difference? The point is, I get it. I understand why these countries don't like it, because the status quo of trade is good for them. It benefits them. They like the status quo. We don't like the status quo.
Oh, okay. That's what it's just petty. Right. Well, here's a little bit more from the Secretary of State who was at the G7 over the weekend.
Do you understand why the Canadians are taking such umbrage at these comments coming from the president? Is that something?
I mean, the Canadian government has made their position, how they feel about it, clear. The president has made his argument as to why he thinks Canada would be better off joining the United States for economic purposes. There's a disagreement between the president's position and the position of the Canadian government. I don't think that's a mystery coming in, and it wasn't a topic of conversation because that's not what the summit was about.
Oh, wow. It should be exactly what the summit was about. And I bet it was about that in a lot of ways as well. All right, Marco Rubio making an ass of himself. And now here's the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. He was also on Face the Nation, and I thought I'd share this one with you because I like Wes Moore.
American people, when they do not have an option or they're not seeing people fighting on their behalf, then yes, there is going to be a measurement of frustration. We are doing everything in our power to fight for the people. And I think it becomes incredibly important because people are paying attention who their fighters are and who their fighters are not.
Well, there were voices within your party on Capitol Hill who offered alternatives. They just weren't listened to. Do you think there is just no leader in the party?
I don't see a difference. And frankly, I don't think the American people see a difference. If they are not hearing an alternative, if they're not hearing an alternative plan, if they're not hearing the plan to push back and fight back, if they're not seeing what we are doing in the streets and in the communities and in the neighborhoods to fight for their best interests, I think for the American people, they just look at it as theater. And that is the frustrating thing. The performative politics, people are done, and they're exhausted by it. They just want to see results, and that's exactly what we're trying to provide here in the state of Maryland.
All right, good stuff from the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. And finally, I've got Gareth Sever from Friday night's Hangout right here with the stand-up community. We had an amazing time. It really was wonderful. I shared the video of this edited version of it. It was a Zoom hangout, so you got to edit it just a little bit so it works. And just for a little bit of context, earlier in the hangout, which is 2.5 hours, our friend Kevin Richburg, who has an amazing farm that I visited last week in upstate New York that hopefully you will all be invited to sometime in August of this year. He's a beekeeper, and so he was telling me last week, and we talked about it at the hangout, how at the end of the season, the bees sacrifice sacrifice themselves and walk out the hive and die so that their bodies don't decompose inside the hive. It was really interesting, and he explained it very well, as he always does. He also talked about Chuck Schumer and complained, and a real part of the joy is watching the video and watching Kevin laugh, because seeing him happy made all of us happy, of course. But then Gareth went on to talk about everything else that's happening in the world with this inspiring song. Again, he makes this stuff up during the Hangout. He basically captures some of the things that were being said, and there was a lot more said as well. We heard some very, very poignant, thoughtful remarks from several of you at Friday Night's Hangout. I highly recommend you come to these Hangouts so that you don't miss these moments. And this was after the whole thing was just about over, about 2.5 hours in. So go look up Gareth's work, support his work. If you get to see him and his partner Matt live, Buckets and Boards for sure, go support them. Follow him on Instagram. And just for a little bit of context, I was about to end the Hangout, which often happens when Gareth says, "Oh, hold on, I got a little something for you." So I was trying to end it, and I forget why. I think it was because a big laugh or something was great. I thought this is the perfect place to end it, and that's where we pick up, me trying to stop and say goodnight, and Gareth Sever saying, "Hold on. It's over. It's got to be over. I have to, oh, wait a second. Maybe it's not." I love that the hardest thing, he writes the most amazing improvised song, and the hardest thing for him is finding out how to turn it on.
I meant to make this longer, but it's short. Bees, I believe, commit a final act of compassionate bravery as they die. They really try to drag themselves selflessly out of the hive, 'cause they don't want their dead carcass spunk spreading bacterial junk where the remaining family still bunks. What a valiant thing to do. Oh, humanity should learn a thing or two. Maybe, just maybe Schumer could quit being such a capitulating boomer and take the theme from the bees. Maybe Schumer, as his strength and will withers, will take his courage's carcass and leave. Where do we go from here? I've got an overwhelming fear. I've got an overwhelming fear. There's no one at the helm. Our leaders refuse to steer. But hell, we can still right this ship, force it right back in the slip. Well, I don't know how to do it, but I guarantee Nick DeFabrizio has a well-founded, reasonable theory on how to get right to it. That's all.
There's no words to describe your talent because I've not come across it, and I know talent. I came up in the New York City comedy clubs, and I was around all the smartest, funniest people, and I don't know shit about music, but I know how you make me feel when you make it, and it feels real, real good. You spotlighted a lot of things and people, and then you made us just – you've done it again. You've done it again. You're just a wonderful talent, a wonderful man, and I just adore you. And also Ryan. All right. There you go. I was 4 beers in. Forgive me there. And so I hope you appreciated that as much as we did on Friday night. And we hope to see you tonight and Thursday, as well as at PODJAM at the end of the month. Also, I will be hosting a hangout. Really, Desiree and Amanda will be hosting a hangout in California, Thousand Oaks, California, if it's still there. I know they just had an earthquake. On March 22nd, if you're in Southern California or anywhere and you want to come to Southern California, on the 22nd, there is an Evite. There are details, and you can email me, standupwithpete@gmail.com. So, not only PodJam, but a meetup at Desiree's house, a little bit of a barbecue, a potluck, if you will, on March 22nd. On Saturday night, so we hope to see you there. That's the first time announcing it here. We've been talking about it in the Discord and the Hangouts as well, but we hope to see you on March 22nd in LA. And let's get to my conversation now with JL Cauvin. Of course, you know JL. He's a comedian. He's a cultural commentator. He's a lawyer who graduated from Georgetown. He is as smart as they come and hilarious. Nobody does impressions better than him, including of Trump and Elon Musk and so many more, a couple of which you hear from in our conversation today. We caught up on Sunday, and this is our conversation. Go support JL. Subscribe to all of his work, his social media, and his Patreon to learn more about his new plans, which he's going to unveil to all of us in Vegas on the 28th through 30th. We hope to see you there with JL Cauvin. We had a great conversation, which, yes, starts out with a little bit of scatological humor, which I think is somewhat interesting if you can deal with it, because he's traveling on a train across the country. And, well, where do you go to the bathroom? We also talked about Elon Musk. We talked about Canada, Trump's DOJ speech on Friday, which hasn't been covered enough, and a lot more. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love it. I hope you go support JL. Here we go. Very excited to see you in Vegas. You will be taking a train because you're afraid to fly, not on B.A. Baracus.
Yeah, you know who else took the train, Pete? Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, but no plane.
As I adopt a Bill Maher tone, you know who else took the train? I just finished a book recommended by one of my fans that I really loved called Lincoln on the Verge.
Oh.
And it's about his 13 days of train travel to get to the Capitol to be inaugurated in 1860, 61. And it was just fascinating to be like, I've been at all these train stations. I felt like now I'm not just somebody scared of flying. I'm running parallel to history. And like the great, tall Abe Lincoln, I think I can save this nation.
So you're so much like Abe Lincoln. How long is the train ride from New Jersey to Vegas? Is there anything we should know about the highlights? Will you be taking the train straight to Vegas?
What I will do, the train, so from Newark, I take a train to D.C. I get off in D.C., most likely purchase a salad from Chopped. That's optional, though. Not everybody who does this trip has to do this. Then go back to the train, which is formerly the Capital Limited, but they've joined what used to be the Capital Limited, which was a D.C. to Chicago train with one of the trains that used to go from New York to Florida. This is now a Florida to Chicago train via D.C. It no longer goes to New York. That's called the Floridian. I take that overnight to Chicago. I arrive in Chicago Union Station. I leave Monday afternoon. I arrive Tuesday morning in Chicago, and then wait 5 hours. One of the things that my dear fans know about me, as I sound like Cornel West, my dear fans, my dear brothers and sisters who listen to my pod, I sometimes go to a hotel that's cheap near Union Station on these long trips just to rec shop in the bathroom, take a thorough shower, knowing I'm not going to have access to facilities. I will have access to facilities. I just choose not to use a train bathroom for number 2 when it's been used by number 33 people.
Right. That's tough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have people marvel at my bowel discipline, which is my title of my next special, by the way, Bowel Discipline.
Oh, you really are that disciplined that you can somehow, do you time your meals?
No, it's the same way when I have a day job. I always look at the people who I'm like, it's 9:30, you just got to work, and this is when your body decides to relieve itself to wreck the bathroom first thing for everybody. It's just my system operates with rigid discipline and social morality. And
that is so deeply offensive to those of us who don't have that kind of control or who go more often or have some kind of disease. It's very judgmental and morally offensive to me, the way you're looking down your...
The people, you don't come to JL for friendship, you come for leadership.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
And so then after Chicago, so if I can race to the hotel, I got like a 5-hour break. Then I get on the train, and it leaves Chicago around 2:30 in the afternoon, Chicago time. I will arrive in Kingman, Arizona at 11 p.m. the next day.
Okay.
At which point I get on a 3-hour shuttle bus from Kingman, Arizona to the Las Vegas McCarran Airport, at which point I will get a lift and say, take me to Henderson, Nevada. I've got to be the loneliest person at the roulette wheel at 4 a.m. Thank you. And then I will arrive, go to sleep, and wake up refreshed, go for a walk, and begin enjoying the PODJAM festivities. After I destroy my bathroom because as you can tell from that's the longest gap.
Right.
That's
No,
going to be about 49 hours.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If I'm able to do that. I might actually be out of commission for that first night. Let's just be honest. Like the 27th, the optional activities, I might opt out and just call a plumber to fix my hotel room bathroom.
Do your bowel movements match your size? Is it what we would expect? Is that what you're saying?
It's like in the first Jurassic Park when they walk by the pile that like the Triceratops left. It's exactly like that.
And that walk,
they look like glaciers peeking out of the toilet water.
Got it.
Is that gross enough, everybody? Not true. Also, not true.
Got it. On that.
JL got really scatological in his last phase as a stand-up comedian.
Will you be willing to take anybody with you on that walk? Maybe if they're a Patreon subscriber, they get to walk with JL after that natural disaster you create occurs.
Yes, I was walking and I saw two sets of footprints, and then I only saw one, and that is when JL asked me to carry him because his ass had blown up.
Quickly, also, I want to tease a huge announcement. You've made this to your Patreon subscribers, and people should go pay $3 and get that announcement in detail. But also, you're going to share that announcement in Vegas as well, I'm told, and nowhere else between now and then? Or do we have an exclusive at PodJam outside of your paid subscribers?
Outside of Patreon and anybody who I talk to in person in the next week.
Fair enough. I'll take it. Deal.
Yes, but as I speak to an average of 5 people a month in person. So it's really, and my dog is one of those 5 people.
So I got to go through a few of the big stories of last week, get your analysis and thoughts on them. So I want to get to a few things here in about 15 or 20 minutes if you can. So here we go. First of all, you've been doing a really amazing Elon Musk impression, and I'll try to grab some clips for you if I have time to play them either here or earlier before the interview. But tell me your thoughts on his role right now. His approval rating is really plummeted. People are protesting at Tesla plants. And apparently it's very organic. He and others are trying to say it's George Soros or Act Blue or whatever. But apparently these protests and people are spray painting dicks and swastikas on the Tesla truck, because that one you have no excuse for buying, apparently. What are your thoughts on his role, the damage that he's doing, and how much time he has left to destroy us?
The truth is about Elon Musk, I think people's anger is completely justified. And when Trump calls them like illegal protests, and I'm sure his supporters go, yeah, they're illegal protests. I think Elon Musk has bitten off more than he can chew. And unlike Donald Trump, I think there's a little bit part of Elon Musk that recognizes that. Like when you see him in an interview looking contemplative and sad, not that I want to give him tons of credit, because I'm sure he just wants to be a libertarian, live in a libertarian utopia.
A network state.
Yeah, he just wants to impregnate white women and have slaves and AI do everything. So I don't want to give him too much credit. But you realize the same way I've learned that Mike Pence actually had a very rigid backbone compared to the modern Republican Party. It took time to realize that, judging relatively, he actually had a spine. He looked like a jellyfish until we saw how many weaklings actually were in the Republican Party. But for Elon Musk, I think seeing that he can even register that puts him above Donald Trump in my eyes, because Donald Trump is incapable of having regret or recognizing anything
definitely
other
very
than
different.
his own desire.
Yeah.
And I think Elon Musk will eventually, I don't think he has it in him. If this were like Peter Thiel, who's like a real vengeful kind of dude, I'd be more nervous long term. I think Elon Musk is going to tap out of this at some point, because I don't think he wants to lose all his wealth. I think when he thought this was going to be easy and he'd be praised by everybody and the results would be great, I think he was like, totally cool, bro. This is going to be awesome. Right. But now I think he is having regret. I don't think he has that super villain thing in him to be like, oh, you hate, like Trump does. Trump has that. Peter Thiel, I think, has that.
Right.
I don't think Elon Musk has you hate me, I will hate you more.
Right.
I think he's going to just go, I'm going to be cool and have my money, get out of here. This is not, government is not as fun as I thought it was before. So I'm going to, I just want to go home and have more kids and do cool things with Tesla and SpaceX.
Thank you, Elon. Appreciate that. So I also want to ask you the big question about Canada. This has gone too far, JL. At first, it seemed like it was a troll, and now it seems like something different. New York Times writing about it. Timothy Snyder just posted about it. People in Canada are outraged. This is a huge issue, and I'm not sure where it's going. My one big point or question is, should every Republican senator, the Secretary of State, congressman be being asked about their stance vis-a-vis Canada and what Trump is referring to constantly and consistently as the 51st state? This is bad. I feel like this is pretty bad. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's more evidence of my idea that Trump is a supervillain, because even if you don't like his joke, his response is to quadruple down. If it was a joke or a troll and then they were like, never, well, I'll show you. It's the idea that, I'm sorry to branch off really quickly, but the idea that MAGA, and we've talked about my videos on masculinity and the new definition of masculinity, all the benefits without any of the responsibilities. That's the MAGA vision of masculinity. It's brain fart. Sorry. Anyway, Canada. I think it's disgusting. I think is prepared for a fight because there is national pride there.
Right.
There's we've been a good neighbor, you dick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when they boo the national anthem, I got into several arguments about this during the hockey tournament. I said, this is when you'd boo a national anthem. This is exactly when. Oh, yes, let's sit idly by and respect the country whose government doesn't respect us and is threatening our independence.
When people have very little power, they want to make a statement of how they feel about a thing. They take advantage of almost any, certainly non-violent opportunity. So it's a pretty preposterous thing to not understand human behavior and the fact that they want to let us know however they can that they don't like this. And even the people that go to hockey games feel this way. I think it's weird that it's that controversial.
They turned on Wayne Gretzky. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
And
that's because Trump called him out. Trump called him out, and Wayne Gretzky.
But he has been, like, before he called him out.
Yeah.
Before he did, they were pissed at him because he was at Mar-a-Lago celebrating the election. Yeah. He is friends with him. I lost respect for fucking Tiger Woods and Wayne Gretzky, these people that you are lower in character than I presumed your athletic discipline. Tiger Woods obviously has had scandals before. But infidelity can be a crime of passion in a marriage. Going to Donald Trump events is a crime of choice of character.
Yeah.
But I think Canada is totally right. I hate to say this, but I'm like, fuck Trump and like the people who support this. And I hope Canada has the stamina and the will to make this fight hurt a little bit, because Trump's whole thing is he views friendship as something to be taken advantage of, not as something to respect.
Wanted to ask you also, all good points. I could keep talking about that, but the other issue I had to ask you about, because, how do you decide whether JL something is undercovered or not covered enough or not covered from the right point? But the flood the zone strategy makes it real hard. I do think that when the president, Donald Trump, went to the Department of Justice, which is still hard to see that he's there and the people that are running it and all that's happening with the Department of Justice. But he made a speech on Friday, and the headlines are Politico. Trump calls his opponents scum and lawbreakers in bellicose speech at Justice Department. AP News, scum, crooked elections, and corrupt media, what Trump said inside the Justice Department. Trump vents fury about his criminal cases in extraordinary speech at DOJ, and Trump threatens opponents with jail in Justice Department speech. He's been threatening a lot of people. Elon Musk has been threatening a lot of people with jail who say things they don't like, and they're jailing people who say things they don't like on some arcane rule. I'm talking about that Palestinian protester. So what about this speech and the moves and things that he's been saying and doing? Rhetoric meeting action.
If we had a constitutionally literate, not a constitutionally expert society, but just a civics and constitutionally literate society, he wouldn't have been reelected, first off. But this idea of how Republicans, how we have allowed Republicans as a society, not me and you, but our society has allowed them. It used to be patriotism. It used to be faith. They got to be the party of all these high ideals because anytime a Democrat spoke up for someone, sure, that might be constitutionally protected speech, burning a flag. But I'll side with the guy who wears the T-shirt that says, "Stomp my flag, I'll stomp your ass," versus siding with the Constitution. Right. When a Democrat does something, it's this idea of the Bible, the Constitution is a thing many Americans cloak themselves in, love, defend, and have no idea what's in it and what the law is, what the history is at all. So when Joe Biden does something, you can just go, it's unconstitutional. And you'll have friends and a Fox News network that will validate that opinion with no actual backing. When it comes to free speech, I'm sorry, canceling somebody over jokes sucks. Deporting a green card holder for holding abhorrent protected speech is a case you'll read about in textbooks years to come. The scale of difference, not that free speech is free speech, but Trump is literally putting us through textbook, history book events, violating the Constitution. And because he sucks, like he's the guy, he's like a sympathizer of Hamas, or he was like his organization issued a statement supporting October 7th. So fuck that guy. Yes, fuck that guy personally as a person, but not as we get to now take away his speech rights as a country. But I think we are in a place now in this country where Democrats, and I've said this before, have this unmanageable triple role. We have to make law, we have to explain law and policy, and we have to not be annoying or too nerdy or in your face or boring, so it's entertain, educate, take care of, do everything right. And Republicans have to sit there and go, Democrats suck, and I'm going to tell you the things that you hate are right. Hey, anti-Semitism, fuck that guy. Yeah, sure, but we're stuck holding the bag of, but we have to now obey the Constitution and the law. Right. Trump gets to be the id, America's id, where he just is, I like chicks. Look at those tits. Yeah, we like tits. Tits are good. Democrats suck. They hate tits. And it's, that guy who burned a flag, that dude better not come into my house. And Trump gets up there and goes, if he came anywhere near me, I'd knock him right in his goddamn teeth. Yes, that's right. And Democrats are like, that's protected speech, though, under our country. Shut up, nerd. And we cannot govern a country like this. Right. We have such a gap. And I will say this. I know some lawyers, like some people who know better, but are too enthralled with the MAGA vibes and the alpha male shit and the just telling it like it is, that they're willing to look past. So it's not just some ignorant. Right. It's people who know better about civics. Some people who know better will allow this kind of vibes civics lesson of if whatever it feels, if you feel it's wrong, then fuck that. Like that, this is a disgrace. That shouldn't be the case. Right. And sorry, we actually have a constitution. All you people who claim to be constitutional conservatives, there's very few David Frenches out there on social media. He's a constitutional conservative and he thinks Trump is a disaster and a historical nightmare. But most people who claim that, they just like cloaking themselves in the MAGA conservative vibes that are untethered to the truth or reality. Yeah, I saw a guy snowboarding on Wednesday or Friday. I was with my daughter, and he was in the line, and he had a jacket with a picture of the Constitution and one of those sayings about it. It wasn't "these colors don't run," but something about the document, right? And I wanted to ask him about
the Constitution so badly.
Right. Hey, buddy, have you ever read your jacket? No, but I'm telling you, it is I think our problems can be, to me, with this country, can be summed up as we have a bunch of people, we have a bunch of Christians who hate the teachings of Jesus and a bunch of constitutional scholars who ignore the Constitution.
Yeah.
How do you have, I don't know how you govern this country right now in the position that we're in terms of there's ignorance and then there's willful ignorance. And they've formed a coalition called MAGA.
You mentioned the Democratic Party, the ideologies, the difference in ideologies and the responsibilities that it would seem that the Democrats have to pick up because they're the only responsible adults. And yet tying this into what happened on Friday with the continuing resolution and how many Democratic senators voted for it, thus a lot of people interpreting it giving away any lever that Democrats might have had. Huge controversy about that. So I wanted you to weigh in on that, but also more specifically, you shared, I think on social media, on Twitter, I saw this new polling. And it said among the American public overall, the Democratic Party's favorable rating stands at just 29%, a record low in CNN's polling dating back in 1992. And I want to just read what you wrote and have you expand on that in reference to the Schumer situation. You wrote, when one party's sole focus is destroying the party in place of helping people, it has an impact. And when a clear majority of Americans are civics illiterate and social media addicted, this is what you get. Are Democrats perfect? Of course not. But Republicans are nothing more than a collection of greedy bigots driven by the dual mission of personal enrichment and anti-Democrat propaganda. America for the last 15 years has been a country that watches Republicans shit on their kitchen floor and then gets angrier at Democrats for not cleaning up the shit enough. Go ahead. That's well said. I shared it.
Thank you. Yeah, that has been my problem with the way the two parties are treated, and not just by the media, by the voters, by the public. I think as far as Schumer goes, and here's the thing, did I disagree with what Schumer, do I think they should have shut it down? Yes. I think they should have forced them to renegotiate. But, and I know maybe I'm too naive here, but I do believe that Chuck Schumer and the people who voted for it, maybe with the exception of John Fetterman, who seems to be going for the Joe Manchin Award this year.
What is that award, by the way? What is that award shaped like? What kind of a trophy? If the Joe Manchin Award, is it just a pile of coal, or is it? No, it's got to be something more clever than that.
No, it's a miniature football made of leather skin shavings of Joe Manchin.
Oh, wow. That is really impressive.
Yeah, he almost sheds his skin like a snake, and it's just this unnaturally leathery tan that can't be found in nature in West Virginia.
And not unlike Joe Manchin and apparently John Fetterman, it's hollow.
Yeah. Or as I said, his name is actually Fetterman's Monster, which I think most people didn't get that was a Frankenstein reference.
That was very good. So you were saying outside of Schumer and the other Democrats and whatever Fetterman.
I think the thing I would say for Schumer, and some people could easily disagree with me, is that I believe Schumer made the decision that he thinks was best. I don't think he made a decision. Now, I can disagree with him, but I don't think he made some decision of my donors want me to do this, so I'm going to do that kind of – I think he made a strategical decision that he thinks is good. I disagree with it, but I don't think he did it out of some selfish calculus. I think he was trying to do something that he thought – and I don't agree with him, but I haven't written this yet, but to me, the country, it should be like there should be two parties in this country if we had a functioning democracy. It's like the Chuck Schumer, John Fetterman Democrats and the Bernie Sanders AOC progressives. And when those two parties hash out things, we just keep moving forward. Instead, you have 50% of the politicians are from the dead weight party, who are unified in just opposing what Democrats do. They have no real agenda except self-enrichment and bigotry. So it's a kind of I don't really think Chuck Schumer was doing something nefarious. I think he made the wrong decision, in my opinion, but I don't think he's trying to sabotage the party. And to be honest, I've said this about Republicans, and it holds true for Democrats also. Senators are not supposed – and he did say – My next election is 4 years from now in terms of being primaried by AOC, hypothetically. And I know that may seem arrogant to some, but I think that is how senators are supposed to think. They're not supposed to be tethered to every election. Oh, no, you elect a senator, like it or not, because you're giving them more power to deliberate and think long term. You can disagree. If you disagree with those decisions, you vote them out. But the Mitch McConnell mode that dominates the right wing of the Senate is every 2 years we have a chance to seize power. So we must act like the House of Representatives and wield our senatorial power in a more hostile and expedient manner. And Chuck Schumer, whether you like the decision or not, I think at its core, that's what a senator does. You can disagree with the decision, but I don't think he was doing something out of political expediency. I think he was trying to make a decision that would play better long term.
I'm not one who shares the deep cynicism of it, much less some people are saying Chuck Schumer has a book out this week. I'm like, not buying any of those. I think that there are interesting arguments to be made on both sides of that vote. However, obviously the House voted in unison, and I disagree with Schumer and others. But I do agree with that. I think you're more nuanced, calm take on it. Before I let you go, I was shocked to see, let's go to the culture lead. Am I Jake Tapper? I was shocked to see you shitting on Ted Lasso. Now, if folks don't know, JL is one of the most respected by me and hundreds of others, cultural commentators out there. He attends everything that Lincoln Center has to offer, including the ballet and the opera, apparently. Also, obviously, Broadway shows.
Love the ballet. Shock. The ballet was great. The opera is, I respect that it's there.
He reads full-ass books, both fiction and nonfiction. He watches films. He goes to plays, and then he shares his views on them. And a lot of you respect them. He has shared his view on the announcement that Ted Lasso is coming back for a season 4. And you said something to the extent of,
I retweeted. So my retweets are endorsements.
Fair enough.
It was from the Daily Beast. The person said Ted Lasso should have been 1 season.
Yeah, that shocked me because you're not a holier-than-thou, highbrow guy. One might think that based on the thoughtful articulation of your nuanced opinions on such things. But the point is, you'll go see a Disney show.
As well as my exposition on taking shits on cross-country.
Exactly. You can do it all. You can really do it all, and you will review things that I would think that you would never even consider watching, like Moana 2 or some other cartoonish thing. And in this case, your thoughts on Ted Lasso, I guess, shocked me because why steal the joy? We don't have a lot of joy. That's a joyful show.
Yeah, because for me, my issue with joy and comedy being conflated. Similar to, I enjoyed Schitt's Creek. I don't think it should have been within 100 miles of best comedy at the Emmys.
Wow.
Similar to Ted Lasso, which I enjoyed less. I didn't think it was as great a show as everybody thought. I didn't think it was a bad show, although I thought season 3 was not good. That was the first season where I was like, this is not good.
Yeah.
But I just think as a comedian, that's where I put on my comedian hat and I go, when something wins best comedy, it better be really funny and not just high budget and well done or pleasant. I think we confuse pleasant with funny. And now we've confused drama with funny as The Bear continues to win best comedy because it's 30 minutes long. So now we've gone from if it's pleasant, it's comedy. And now we've gone to if it's 30 minutes, it's comedy.
I see.
And my next series that I'm going to write a series called Closed Casket Funerals. And see if it's 28 minutes an episode, if we can get the best comedy nomination.
I like it a lot. You make me like things I don't think I'm going to. That's your talent. JL, I appreciate your time as always. I can't wait to see and be with you after you have digested your food. And I wish you the safest travels. Thank you very much, as always.
You too. Thank you.
Big event announcement in Vegas. Okay. All right, there you go. JL Cauvin, everybody. Go support him on Patreon. Go get his album. Go stream it. Go support him on all the social medias and all of the rest. We love him, and we're very excited to have him joining us out in Vegas at the end of the month, and hope to see you there as well as tonight at our Hangout. John Carroll writes and performs all of our music here on Stand Up. He has a new album out. Go to johncarroll.org. That's Jon Carroll, CARROLL.org, and buy that. Stream it now. That's it. That's all. I will talk to you tomorrow right here on Stand Up. Thanks, folks. Love you. Bye-bye.
When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light.